Good evening.
Good evening.
I bet most of us have heard or read this gospel passage many, many times, especially those of us on the back nine of life, I guess. And sometimes when you hear or see something many, many, many times, it kind of starts to lose its impact, right? It gets a little familiar. But really, these are Christ's descriptions of the way of life that we should be living. And each of them comes with these extravagant promises. So it's kind of a shame when we sort of get, inured of it or whatever, too familiar with it, and it loses its impact. So I thought tonight maybe we could take a look at these 8 Beatitudes a different way. Sometimes you have something and you've seen it a million times, and then you turn it around and it looks different, or on its side it looks different. So we're going to try that. Sometimes to understand something, it's good to look at its opposite, what it's not. So in this case, that would be what we might call the anti-Beatitudes of the world. They probably sound something like this. Blessed are the rich in material wealth, well, because they pull all the strings and they have really nice stuff. Blessed are the tough guys, they don't need anybody's comfort. Blessed are the cocky and the aggressive, well, because nice guys finish last. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for fame, for they get to be TikTok and YouTube influencers with jillions of likes and views. Blessed are the heartless, because they get to bully their way to the top in business and politics. Blessed are the impure pleasure seekers, well, because they get to have a good time. Blessed are the winners who beat their opponents, because everyone else is a loser. Blessed are those who go along to get along, because their truth is just as good as anybody else's. Does that sound like what you read and see and hear a lot in the world today? These are the things that are valued in the world. Another way to understand something is to look at it framed in the negative, right? Instead of blessed are those, maybe look at it the negative. So imagine if Jesus, instead of being on the top of the mountain with his disciples, was down in the city, trying to teach this to his opponents, those who have opposed him then and in every age, including today. That conversation might sound something like this. Cursed are the rich in spirit, for theirs is the temporary kingdom of man. Cursed are those who celebrate in vain, for they will soon mourn. Cursed are the proud, for they shall inherit hell. Cursed are those who are satisfied with their self-righteousness, for they will be starving for love. Cursed are the judgmental, for they shall receive judgment. Cursed are the hard-hearted, for they shall never see God. Cursed are the divisive, for they shall be called enemies of God. Cursed are those who are accepted by the world for their unrighteousness and relevance, for theirs is the kingdom of man. Kind of strong medicine, don't you think? But Jesus didn't teach the Beatitudes from a negative perspective to his enemies. He was on the mountain with his disciples, with those who were earnestly trying to follow him. And so he phrased them in positive format, in language of love. So maybe we can take a look at him again in that light, but looking at the definitions of each of those characteristics of the Christian life instead. If we do that, it might sound like this. If you realize you're a sinner in need of God's help, how blessed you are. If you grieve over the sins you and others commit against God, how happy you are. You can remain calm, humble, and steadfast in the face of adversity and not give in to discouragement or despair or bitterness. How fortunate are you? If you sincerely try to do the will of God and seek to be holy, how blessed are you? if you can show empathy towards the failings, faults, and needs of others and do what you can to help them, how blessed are you? If you can perceive that the human body, yours and your neighbor's, is a temple of the Holy Spirit, how lucky are you? If you can ceaselessly work to be reconciled to God and to neighbor, how blessed are you? You can strive to be in a right relationship with God and your neighbor, how fortunate you are. So now that we've looked at these things a couple of different ways, I think, well, what's that mean to me? Like, how can I absorb this and live this out? How do I live out the Beatitudes in my own life, each and every one of us? And the answer is in each of our own ways, depending on our station of life. This past Tuesday was the feast of St. Francis de Sales, and he was very well known for his teaching and writing that each person can be holy in a totally different way from anybody else based on their station in life. So, for example, a man who's a husband and a father and a worker, he's going to be holy in his life much differently than a man who is a monk, whirled away in a monastery. Right? They're both going to be holy, but they're going to do it in totally different ways. So maybe it's helpful to go back and look at these Beatitudes again and think about how they apply to each and every one of us in our own particular station in life. You know, it's funny, I was doing some reading and preparing, and it turns out there's actually a list of Beatitudes for bishops. Can you believe that? Pope Francis, back in 2021, our Holy Father, was meeting with all the bishops in Italy, and he presented to them this list of Beatitudes for bishops. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but you can Google it if you like. But here's one, Beatitude number 3. That blessed is the bishop who considers his ministry a service and not a power, making meekness his strength, giving to all the right of citizenship to his own heart, so as to inhabit the land promised to the meek. See what I mean? That's probably not going to be appropriate to you and I, obviously, but it's very appropriate to a bishop. So what might something more appropriate look like for each and every one of us, for spouses and parents and children and managers and students and et cetera, right? Well, I think we could probably think of a couple of examples, right? For spouses, maybe, blessed are spouses who forgive each other over and over and over. For that mercy will probably lead to a long, happy marriage. For parents, maybe one is, blessed are the parents who teach their children the faith so that the whole family may see God. For managers at work, maybe, blessed are the managers who lead for the benefit of their employees and not their own ego, so that all may flourish and prosper. Get the idea? Right? I'd like to encourage everybody here to think about this tonight a little bit. What are the Beatitudes that apply in my life, for my station in life? St. Paul says it's good for the faithful to be the foolish of the world, the weak of the world, the despised and lowly of the world. Why? Well, that's because the anti-Beatitudes of the world lead to death, but the Beatitudes of Christ lead to everlasting life. Rejoice and be glad, Jesus says, for your reward will be great in heaven.